Right now, America's most influential hardliner on immigration, Stephen Miller, appears to have received a very clear message from the public. The country has turned against him. His numbers are in the basement. No major political figure in the United States today carries lower approval ratings than he does. Reports indicate he's stepped back from the spotlight, keeping a much lower profile than before. According to sources, this once highly visible advisor has pulled away from public view following a series of aggressive enforcement actions that ended in tragedy. Two American citizens in Minnesota, Alex Pretty and Renee Good, both 37 years old, lost their lives during operations carried out by federal agents. The New York Times laid out the timeline and the fallout in stark detail. Documents and reporting show that Miller, who helped design some of the toughest immigration measures in recent memory, has largely avoided cameras and microphones since those deaths. He holds key roles as Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and as a senior Homeland Security advisor, yet his public schedule has gone quiet. Analysis of his media appearances tells a revealing story. Before the incident that claimed those two lives on January 24th, Miller turned up on the president's preferred cable network roughly once every 4 days. In the weeks that followed, amid widespread outrage over the policies he shaped, that frequency dropped sharply. He appeared on the network just twice throughout February. Recent surveys place him near the very bottom when Americans rank how they feel about leading political voices. Even so, records indicate he continues steering the development of strict new enforcement rules, just out of the public eye. So here's the question we all need to confront. Is his disappearance from view actually good news, or does it make the situation far more concerning? Let's be clear. Plenty of people are relieved to see him step back. That public rejection didn't happen by accident, but here's the deeper danger. When someone like Miller operates away from scrutiny with minimal pushback, the risks multiply. On air, his ideas and intensity draw immediate attention and criticism. The public gets to see the full picture and form its own judgment. That's exactly why his popularity sank so low in the first place. Now, with far less visibility, major decisions on enforcement move forward in closed rooms, shielded from the kind of real-time examination that once kept things in check. Remember, this is the same advisor who has pushed for large-scale removals on a scale that would affect tens of millions of people in a nation of roughly 340 million. Critics describe his approach as extreme, rooted in ideas that clash with core constitutional principles and American traditions. He functions, in their view, as a relentless advocate for those positions, shaping narratives and policy from behind the scenes. Look at the inner circle around the president. Miller stands out for his uncompromising stance on these issues. Then there's Vice President J.D. Vance, often described as the likely successor in the current political movement. Vance rose with support from influential donors, including tech billionaire Peter Thiel, whose companies have significant government contracts and who has openly questioned aspects of democratic norms in recent years. Some observers call Vance a highly adaptable figure in that environment, someone positioned strategically. The president himself has made no secret of his preference for surrounding himself with people he sees as less accomplished, claiming it boosts his own confidence. His well-known tendency toward personal grudges and loyalty tests plays out in how he handles those around him. No one is allowed to outshine the center of attention. In what some call one of the most pointed sidelining moves yet, the president placed Vance in charge of rooting out waste and misconduct across government, dubbing him the fraud czar. Consider the shifting explanations for balancing the federal budget in recent months. Early on, the focus landed on one high-profile efficiency effort. Then it shifted to other targets. Later proposals involved new financial mechanisms. Now the emphasis has moved again, with Vance tapped to lead the charge. The president stated that this role would cover the entire country, but concentrate especially on certain states led by the opposition party, California, Illinois, Minnesota, and others, while adding pointed references to specific communities. He wished the vice president well in the task. This pattern raises serious questions. Is this a genuine effort to clean up government, or is it setting the stage to shift blame when results fall short? The president's deep focus on his own legacy sometimes appears to leave little room for anyone else to carry forward the agenda once he's gone. Observers note a pattern of positioning others to absorb criticism while protecting the top figure. Assigning the fraud portfolio to the vice president echoes past political tactics. Think how one side relentlessly attacked a previous border-related assignment. Now the roles have flipped, and critics see an opening to highlight any shortcomings in the current administration's own operations. Let's call things what they are. The executive branch under any president faces intense scrutiny, but here the atmosphere feels especially charged. Accusations of misconduct and loose oversight fly from all directions. If the vice president becomes the public face of the anti-fraud push, any failures or controversies could stick to him personally. For the opposition, that creates a clear target and a potential advantage heading into future elections. The volume of alleged irregularities already circulating makes this a high-stakes assignment. Beyond that, signs point to another key official being lined up to take heavy responsibility if foreign policy efforts go wrong, particularly any escalation involving Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has drawn sharp criticism for his views and record. Detractors label him as holding prejudiced attitudes on race, gender, and other issues, and they argue his approach to faith and policy veers into extremes that make even other conservative voices seem moderate by comparison. In public remarks, the president has described conversations with military leaders about challenges in the Middle East. He referenced Iran's long history of supporting militant groups and its suspected progress toward nuclear capability. According to his account, options included continued pressure or a more direct intervention to address the threat. He noted that Hegseth spoke up early in those discussions. Additional comments suggested the secretary pushed to press ahead rather than scale back. These statements have fueled speculation that the administration is preparing to deflect accountability onto the defense chief if outcomes turn costly. Hegseth has spent years avoiding serious consequences for past controversies. Yet pressure is building. Should the opposing party gain control of key congressional committees, expect intense hearings. The vice president, already carrying the fraud portfolio, could face tough questioning over broader governance issues. Hegseth, meanwhile, risks becoming the focal point for decisions on military actions abroad. Under his leadership at the Pentagon, numerous senior officers have been removed or passed over for advancement. The military has long operated as a system based on performance and merit. Reports highlight stalled or blocked promotions for qualified black officers and women who had strong records. White officers who reportedly raised concerns about certain directives or pushed back on personnel decisions have also faced repercussions. These moves have sparked accusations of bias and questions about whether ideological tests are overriding service records. Congressional voices, including Representative Adam Smith, have signaled that if Democrats regain the House, the Armed Services Committee will demand testimony from those affected by these personnel shifts. Probes could examine why promotions for black female officers were delayed or halted. Legal experts suggest potential for large-scale complaints or lawsuits alleging discriminatory practices. This controversy is still unfolding, but it already points to deep divisions inside the defense establishment. Why the widespread house cleaning at the top ranks? Accounts from the president's first term describe him expressing frustration with military leadership and reportedly asking why he couldn't have commanders who showed the kind of absolute loyalty associated with certain historical regimes, specifically referencing German generals from the World War II era. What he appeared to want were officers willing to follow orders without question, even in ethically fraught situations. The goal, according to those familiar with his thinking, was to avoid withdrawals from overseas commitments and to maintain control over deployed forces. This time around, with loyalists installed in key positions, the concern among critics is that the administration is shaping the military to support domestic objectives that could test constitutional boundaries. Tactics aimed at influencing elections, such as stricter voting measures, might face resistance from independent-minded officers. A more compliant command structure could smooth the way for controversial actions. Even with those preparations, many analysts predict the next national vote will prove too large to manipulate through any single set of tools, potentially delivering a strong shift against the current direction. At this point, let's take a quick break for a message that matters to many of us. We all know someone who worries excessively about their health. Maybe it's a spouse, a friend, or even ourselves. Random symptoms send people down internet rabbit holes or into unreliable online tools for answers. That's stressful and often unnecessary. Real medical professionals can provide clarity, and in most cases, the news is reassuring. There's a straightforward way to connect with trusted care without the usual hassle. A free platform called ZocDoc helps you locate and schedule appointments with quality in-network doctors across every state. Whether you prefer an office visit or a virtual consultation, you can see real-time openings and book instantly. No endless phone calls or long waits. Many appointments happen quickly, sometimes the same day or within a day or two. If you've been putting off that checkup, now's the time. Head over to zocdoc.com/ihip to find and book a doctor you can trust. That's zocdoc.com/ihip. We appreciate their support for this program. Back to the latest developments inside the administration. Pam Bondi no longer serves as Attorney General. She's been replaced on an acting basis by Todd Blanche, who previously represented the president in high-profile legal matters. Blanche defended Trump through a case that resulted in 34 felony convictions. The president has long joked about enjoying the company of those who haven't always come out on top. In this instance, elevating one of his former defense attorneys to the top law enforcement post raises immediate questions about independence and priorities. Any hope that the change would bring a fresh approach looks misplaced. The new acting attorney general faces the same intense pressures as his predecessor, especially around the ongoing release of documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Those files continue to generate headlines and public demand for full transparency. The president sits at the center of much of that attention, given past associations. During a recent press availability, Blanche fielded direct questions about whether the public would finally see the names of individuals who allegedly harmed young women connected to Epstein's activities. His response struck many as evasive. He pushed back against the premise, stating he had never confirmed such details and questioning the assumption that hidden evidence existed. He emphasized that any credible information leading to prosecution would be pursued, but he claimed no such trove of incriminating names sat untouched within the files. Critics immediately pointed out the careful wording and suggested it revealed a defensive mindset shaped by years of criminal defense work. This exchange highlighted a deeper pattern. What happens to officials who pledge total allegiance to the president, setting aside personal ethics or independent judgment? Time after time, loyalty appears to offer little protection. Just look at what happened to Bondi. Images surfaced showing her official portrait removed from Justice Department walls and discarded. One day she's in the inner circle, the next she's out. The same fate may await others. Vance could find himself absorbing blame for any shortcomings in the fraud initiative. Hegseth risks becoming the public face of any costly foreign entanglements. And Blanche, now steering the Justice Department, may eventually face the same abrupt dismissal. Those who study authoritarian styles note a common thread. Leaders often hold deep contempt for even their most devoted followers, viewing them as disposable once they no longer serve an immediate purpose. The president has repeatedly referred to people around him in dismissive terms. Supporters from various backgrounds, certain Latino groups, conservative LGBTQ organizations, prominent judicial figures, and loyal appointees have all discovered that perceived special status offers no shield. Bondi was removed with striking speed. Her replacement and others in sensitive roles should take note. Accountability has a way of arriving, even if delayed. Promises of protection, such as pardons, may prove unreliable when personal grudges or political expediency take over. This administration has assembled a team that many describe as operating more like a tightly controlled operation than a traditional government. Dirty tactics and corner-cutting seem normalized in the eyes of opponents, yet the individuals carrying out those directives often end up discarded when convenient. History shows that regimes built on personal loyalty, rather than institutional strength, tend to consume their own. The coming months will test how far these dynamics extend. Congressional oversight, public pressure, and legal challenges could force greater transparency. Whether on immigration enforcement, military leadership, budget claims, or the handling of sensitive files, the public deserves straight answers and real accountability. That's where things stand today. The moves behind closed doors deserve close watching. Stay engaged, because the consequences will reach far beyond Washington. Like, subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll bring you more updates as this story develops.